Anyway, there we go. Anyway, this is a subject again I talk about a lot to my students. This is again, it's a hot topic. I talk about it with my colleagues. I talk about it. I've actually had conversations with famous people like James Ennis. I talk about this about because this is something that and he actually I don't know he's pretty visible on Instagram if you notice, and he put up a post of his rehearsal and then his performance, which I thought was very interesting. And you could hear a slight difference. And I remember, I wish I had had a chance to talk to Nikolai Znaider, because he even said something prior to his concert with us when he was playing Beethoven Violin Concerto. And I distinctly remember Nikolai, the first time he ever came, this is like literally 26 years ago, with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And I remember that, and I remember his bow was shaking. And it was kind of unbelievable that he was just really nervous. And it happens to the best of them. And that's what I just wanted, first of all, to say, that, the greatest and the most, biggest stars out there have nerves and feel it. And I think that's great. And the thing about it is that you have to understand that you can't expect it not to be a part of your performance. Or part of life, because that means you're human. Number one, okay? It's number one, you're human. And if you didn't get nervous, that's a bigger problem, in my opinion. That means you don't care. So being nervous means you care, and you should care. And the reason, now, it can obviously hamper your performance, but in my opinion, it will hamper your performance, but I don't think it hampers the performance as much as everyone thinks it does. I know we feel awful. I've played auditions. My first audition, or my first prelim audition with the Philadelphia Orchestra, that the job that I actually won. I'll never forget the first audition, that prelim. I was so nervous, and I was really feeling horrible. When I got, after that audition, of course, thankfully, I got through it. And of course, I got less nervous as the audition went on. But I'll never forget the comments I got for that first round. Like, you sound really great. Like, it was all good stuff. So as nervous as I sounded, or as I felt, I didn't sound as nervous as I felt. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. So, and this is what I want to say first. You are the royal you and myself, we all are at a level of playing. We all perform at our level. It's undeniable. I don't think people understand that there is a baseline level that we all function, and that we all basically play, essentially to. That is just basically, hold on one second. I think that is just undeniable. We all have a level. And I think a lot of us are in denial as to what our level of playing really is. And unless we know our level and really understand it and accept it, that's the first key to, in terms of controlling your nerves. If I have students that say they play great, or they'll say they play great, and I listen to the recording and I'll be like, well, I could see why you didn't get passed around. I could, and it doesn't mean how nervous you were or whatnot. I just think the expectation of how you play sometimes it exceeds where you actually think you are. And sometimes it's my job sometimes as a teacher to say, you might think you sound really great, but you might want to kind of think about and reevaluate. And sometimes you need a teacher that's very honest and really says it like it is. And I think a good teacher will tell you, like, look, you have to be at this level, or you have to do this, or this has to change, And I remember even like David Kim actually having heart-to-heart conversations, and he's told me about this before, with certain people that he's taught, and just saying, you might want to look elsewhere, or you might want to kind of think differently about the next audition, because right now I think you're not at that level yet. And I think I give him a lot of credit for being that honest, because a lot of people are a lot of teachers just want to pat you on the back and make you feel good. And a good teacher will be honest with you. And that's, first of all, most important. And I just think once you know your level, then you have to work from there. And then you realize, okay, I'm at this level. When it was, for me, I knew, I just knew I had to get better. And that was sort of where I was along the process. I had better days, I had good auditions, I had bad auditions, but I knew every audition was, basically a point on my journey of where I had to go. And in order to get to that next level, I had to take that next step. And the hardest thing, of course, is, getting rejected or getting knocked out of the first round. And of course, I've gotten knocked out of the first round. I've gotten knocked out at every different round. I've gotten this close to winning a job in LA Phil. I got this close to winning a job in Pittsburgh Symphony. I got so many close calls. And then I would immediately get rejected. There's no necessarily rhyme or reason why something happens. It can be very random. I just know, for me, I did realize, I really did feel like my playing was getting better. And I just always said, the job will happen when I just keep getting better. It will eventually happen. And I had a belief in that. And I think that, I will also say too, I was a little bit naive in realizing how hard it is to win a job. And I think that naivete was actually to my advantage, because had I known how hard it was, I think I'd be more freaked out. Because it is hard. It really is hard. But that's, let's just stop there. Does anyone have any questions? And because I'm going to open, I have other things I want to say, but does anyone want to, throw it in the chat or raise your hand and I'll let you speak. Because I'm here for you guys. Let me look at the chat here.
So if I could ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
So I have a lot of students that audition for international competitions and trying all different ways to help them to remember their piece. Do you have any suggestions? I'm like, yes, we do the themes, we know what the theme is. We're listening all the time. We're trying to make—
Are you talking about memorization, Joe?
Well, I think that's part of being nervous, don't you think so? On how well you feel you know something, or I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
No, well, memorization is very important. And here's the thing, when it comes to auditions, basically you don't have to memorize for an audition. So that doesn't necessarily play into it. Now, in an international competition, I've never done anything.
They have you. Yeah, so they have you have to memorize it. So that's what I'm saying.
And I play things like I will play. Look, I have the freedom to choose or not to play from memory or not. When I played Beethoven Violin Concerto, I played it from memory. When I played Shostakovich Violin Concerto, I did not play it from memory. And there's reasons I did and I didn't. So everything, and again, I'm not in that sort of realm of international competitions. I'm way past that, in terms of my age and what my dreams are. And it's not something but I haven't had to even coach someone. However, I do think memorization is basically something that comes with just like anything else. It's repetition, 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 repetition. And once you are going, once you are basically, once you basically have done it so many times, you should not be thinking about it. You should not be thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And that basically, and that's you have to be sort of on automatic pilot, and sometimes that's kind of how I'll never forget one time I played the what's it called? I played what was it? It was the oh, I know, it was Bach, the Preludio, the first move, or the first movement of it, as an encore. And basically I practiced it, like I played it, I think, like I knew I was going to play it as an encore. I think I played it like 20 times in a row that day, because I just knew that it basically, there's so many places where you can kind of take a detour and then wind up back at the beginning. So if you don't, but I knew, I had an idea of, okay, where are those? And I kind of just kept that in my brain, those two, and I would constantly, even mentally rehearse, okay, when I get here, I got Baba. And I would just do that over and over and over and over again. And I would say that it's just repetition. And to your point, or even beyond that point, Joe, here's the thing. There's something that people don't, I don't think people realize the amount of work and preparation. And at this point, and I don't say this in any way to brag or to say anything how great I am. I don't feel nerves in the same way and panic the way because I've learned over time what it is that triggers me to get uncomfortable, and that starts to make me nervous. And that happens during a concert, and I've known now what to do so that I can kind of prevent that from happening. Because in the past, I felt nerves and I didn't even know what was going on. And over time, and a lot of this is, like I say, this is experience and years that I've had. And I've started playing as a child, so I got used to playing. But I remember playing Mendelssohn Violin Concerto for the first time when I was like 16, and my knees were shaking. I remember, but I think I played it again, and by the 5th, or 6th, or 10th, or 20th time that I played it, repetition is just there's just no substitute for repetition, and you have to do. And same thing with auditions, unless you take auditions a lot and you get used to the experience and you kind of understand what that's like. There's just the experience factor is everything. It's everything for me, for sure. I mean, my experience playing recitals and that's why I constantly give myself things to do, so that I don't ever get, I never feel sort of, what's it called? I don't get sort of
Dale.
Yeah, I have to stay on top of my game. It makes me and that's why I have things. I'm playing Prokofiev Violin Concerto for the second time. This guy, and I'm so excited about it. It makes me practice. It makes me want to play better. And even when I played it the first time, I know I did okay, but I know it's going to be a lot better this time because I've done it, and I know exactly what went wrong, and I know how to prevent that. And I'm actually hoping to play it from memory. That's the goal. We'll see. Because I think that's an achievement in of itself. I know it from memory. It's another thing to perform it from memory. Here's for me, the reasons I don't perform it from memory are if the orchestra is not something I can rely on, and that they're going to kind of, if I was playing with the Philadelphia Orchestra, there's no doubt I play it from memory, because they're never going to do something that's going to mix me up. But I have to see how the orchestra responds, and if everything sounds good, I will do it. I will do it from memory. It's not a hard concerto to play from memory, to be perfectly honest with you. Only the last page of the last 2 pages of the third movement are hard, because it's a couple things that you have to be, you just have to know. And because I remember other people kind of having a bit of a memory slip, but repetition and preparation is the first key, in my opinion, to getting rid of anxiety. And I just don't think people realize how many hours, how much time, how much preparation you have to do, the royal you has to do to really beat the nerves. If I'm so prepared, eventually I know it's all going to happen. For the most part, 90% of what that my ability is, at least I will get to 90% of what it should be. It's not going to be 60% of I just know it if I've done the work. I really believe that. Anything else? Any other questions? Don't all talk at once.
So go ahead. I didn't think anybody was going to say anything, but go ahead. You had something to say.
Oh. Well, I just had one thing.
Go ahead,
when I was playing an audition today, I just felt that I just felt not in control of my sound and phrasing like I wanted to be. And I know that was nerves. I was feeling confident, but for some reason I just feel like I wasn't in control. I felt like I should be. And I think I've done, the preparation, and I'm actually really great at memorizing stuff. So I memorize everything, but of course, it doesn't matter there. But yeah, I just want to know how to kind of beat that type of nerves where I just feel detached from the instrument. I just feel detached from my voice sometimes.
Okay. Did you feel, what were you thinking at the time? Were you fixated on that? Was that sort of in your head at that point? While you're in the midst of the audition, what was running through your head?
It was somewhat, because one of the things I did do when I was in the audition prep room was focusing on how I was going to focus on my sound. I mean, kept contact with all parts of the bow. So I was just kind of going over that type of thing. Uh, I mean, that's probably not necessarily the ideal time to do it, but that's all I could think of at the time. Um, but I, I think I think the only thing that could have maybe been better is if I had done more mock auditions for more
Absolutely.
people.
Okay.
I need
Absolutely.
to play for more people. That's the
Absolutely.
only thing I can think I could have done better. But it just scares me when I feel so detached from my voice on the violin. And yeah, I mean, it almost led me back to the old days when I was doing mock auditions at Peabody. Um, I was like, I'm not supposed to feel like this now.
I hear you. Well, but again, here's the thing. There's certain things again, and I talk about this because what's running through your head during the audition is very important. And I remember talking about this with one of my, one of my late teachers, William D. Pasquale, and he was just like he would say the way he put it is like it's got to be black in there. It's got to be like your mind is to a certain extent very non-active, and there's a certain calm to your brain that it just has to be like you're like undistractable, like you're in your own zone. And that's kind of how he put it. It's got to be black. And I know what that feels like because when I'm playing and things are going well, I'm not, I'm not, I'm just getting from one note to the next, to the next. And I feel like I'm telling a story no different than what I'm doing right now and talking to you. I'm just communicating what is on my heart or what's in my violin and putting it out one note at a time, one phrase at a time. And if I could keep it that simple as I'm telling a story and I'm letting go and just you have to let go of any like I learned the hard way. You got to let go of anything technical. You got to let go of anything. This is what I believe for me and what I think works. I got to let go of anything where I'm kind of overly analyzing or trying to do. I really need to just play and tell a story as if and use my arms, my body to kind of present, and that's everything. I think if it's no different than giving a speech. If you're out there and talking, if you start rushing your words or looking nervous or your body language, you can tell. And the first thing I was going to say, one of the first things I do when I get on stage is I smile. I kind of like look at this and like, oh, and I kind of try to put on and it's no different like when I play recital. I try to put on a real good stage presence. Like, I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful to get this chance to tell you this story. I'm so grateful I feel that way every time I walk on stage. I'm like, I can't believe I get to play this wonderful piece. How great this is. This is, even if I don't like the piece, I have to force myself to think that. I'm like, no, this is a great, or I will find a part of the piece. No, I really, and just kind of everything revolves around that point in the piece. And I'm just trying to tell the story. And that's kind of how I get out of my own head, so to speak. I got to get out of my own head in terms of like the fears, this negative self-talk, all the kinds of things that lead to nerves. And if you have that self-talk that is damaging, that's the first thing. And I remember going down this sort of spiraling down, like, oh my goodness, this sounds horrible. Oh my goodness, I can't. And next thing you know, you sound like crap and you can't get a control, and that's obviously the worst thing. Now, has it happened to me? Yes, it's happened. Again, these are great learning experiences, and I've taken that to kind of sort of learn from it more than anything. So,
you have a particular warm up that you do to sort of get you in the groove? Like, if you're playing the piano, sometimes someone will go through the first 10 hand exercises to get warmed up. Do you have a warm up that you do before you perform, or even before practicing, like beginning of practice warm up?
I think, my father says, like, you don't even warm up. I think I feel very comfortable Listen, if it's cold, yeah, I have to kind of really do something special, and of course warm up slowly and whatnot. I generally, my warm up, I think has been consistent. I play scales, and that's just what I do. And I'll say this: I think scales, again, people who don't practice scales, I just don't think you're going to play that high of a level. And if you're not doing your scales at a very deep level, you're really not, you're not giving yourself the best chance of winning an audition. For me, scales is something that I do in a way that is, it's like I want to feel the tactile nature of my hands interacting with one another, the sort of coordination of the hands, the coordination of each ship, the coordination of each boat.
Could you demonstrate the scales that you do?
I mean, here, hold on, yeah.
Feel for that.
I mean, I will literally take a C major, you know, whatever scale. I could just take C major. I don't know if it's too loud. I have a lavalier here, but you know, the first thing I try to do is I feel heavy. I feel like the bow sits on the string. My body feels heavy, and I really want to feel like I'm balanced with the hair on the string and that I start the bow extremely deliberately. And that's the first thing, of just feeling deliberate, and then just connecting one note to the next, you know? Okay, that was okay. And then, you know, and then once I get sort of my balance and feel, you know, I'll start going. Okay, I don't sound too good, so here we go. So anyway, when I'm talking, it's hard for me to go back and forth to talk. Let me just sort of try and focus on what I'm doing. And just feeling each and every interval, and then it starts to kind of feel a little bit more comfortable. I haven't played at all today, so. And that's kind of, you know, my process. When I pick up the violin, it's the first thing I do. It could be just any scale. And I'm really deliberate about my bow changes, my string crossings. Everything is very, very, you know. And again, I love all kinds of scales, you know, whether.
I'll be back.
You know, and I do a lot of double stops and add some collé and some martelé, all kinds of things to just get my coordination going. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I mean, and the more the more I have the sensation of making consistent sound, the better. And of course, you know, I'm depending on room I'm in too. It dictates how I kind of respond. You know, you don't get a chance. You know, when I get on stage in a large place I haven't played, I try to just tune to kind of get a feel of what I have to do. But then, you know, that's the hard part, is like, I find, is getting used to the venue if you just get thrust out there and you never had a chance. I think the one thing I had going for me with my audition with the Philadelphia Orchestra is I had played in the Academy of Music since I was 13. I was like home field advantage for sure, because I knew what that hall felt like and I knew how to play on that. That was definitely to my advantage. So. Anyone else? Can you hear me okay? Does everything sound okay?
Yes, yep.
Okay. So anyway, all right, let me just say this too. I will talk about, somebody have a question? I didn't hear you. Somebody's hand up here. Let me look in the chat. Maybe I missed something in the chat. Okay. Getting in the zone. No, okay. I don't see any questions. I mean, somebody said something about hypnotherapy. I've never done that, or something like that. Yeah, I've heard about some stuff like this. I've never done. Here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about a couple things. Beta blockers, because a lot of people I know use beta blockers. I've used them. They don't work for me. They just don't. I've tried it. I've gotten really uncomfortable, and it didn't mean anything. The beta blocker didn't do anything. It didn't make me feel any more comfortable, and it didn't necessarily change my performance whatsoever. And my performance was no different. So I never take beta blockers. I don't take anything like that. And I'm not bragging. It just doesn't do anything for me. It really has no effect on me. And I feel as if anything, if it's going to slow me down, I think that's worse. I need to feel myself, and I want to feel 100% who I am when I'm playing. So I don't recommend doing that unless you really have a problem. Now, I know a lot of people use them, and I have no judgment. It's just that it doesn't do any. I don't know. I think sometimes there are far more pressing issues than that. I think that's, and I don't know. Again, some people swear by them. So I'm just telling you my point of view about it. So let's see. There's 4. Here we go. I know a lot. Yeah, I do. I know a lot of pros too as well. Okay, Timothy asks I don't know, how much does the concerto matter on audition? That's a good question. The concerto, you really can set yourself apart. I will say this, and I told this story before in another my last free class. I'll never forget an audition. I was on the audition committee, and this guy came in, played. His name is Jose Maria Blumenschein. He played the first 2 lines of Mozart 5. That I never heard anything so beautiful, and the committee's jaws dropped. And I think he just captured their heart in 2 lines. And he was a great player. I mean, he did a lot of great things in an audition, but those 2 lines kind of just got the ball rolling, and then everything was just like, okay, this guy's got some serious talent. And he did. And, eventually, he's gone on and played concerts in Europe now. But that was a concertmaster, a 3rd chair. And so you can really catch people's attention if you start sounding really beautiful. I really do think the first impressions are important. You don't want to, and that's why I always suggest whatever concerto you pick, you play the beginning of it. I just know that concerto. That's the concerto I won my audition with. I know it so well. I felt so comfortable, and it was my concerto. That's why I picked it. It made me sound I was comfortable playing it, and that's why I picked it. And I got off to a good start, and that's kind of the rest is history. And, for a romantic concerto, I always think, playing Sibelius is a nice beginning. It's easy to start. It feels a little comfortable. I think Brahms is very difficult to start I don't recommend it, but some people feel really comfortable. So again, whatever you sound great playing, that's the one you should play.
Can you recommend like 3 pieces that you should have in your back pocket? If you go to a place where there's a bunch of strangers and they say, well, what can you do? Play something. And,
I get faced with that. I hate that. But yeah, no, I do have things in my back pocket.
I mean, you're not going to, something that's not horribly difficult, like, not Flight of the Bumblebee or something like that, but just,
I have things. It's, what's funny about it? It's like some people are really good at that and really good at just, hey, yeah, I'll play this and blah, blah. And it's not, I feel so like on the spot. I've never liked that, but I can do it. But I feel like it to a certain extent feels like showing off. And I like to be hired to play something and have the mindset of I'm going to get up there. And because there's a certain aspect of that kind of, I think it's good to do once in a while, but I don't like the feeling of it personally.
Okay.
Do you?
Well, I think there's probably some pieces that need to be, that everybody should know as basic pieces to be able to play.
I mean, I can do it. I just, yeah. I mean, and you should always have things that you can play. I agree with you. I guess they
don't always need to be a classical piece either. I mean,
true.
You play a Bach piece or maybe a folk piece, or I don't know.
Yeah.
One of my
first.
It's
funny when the problem is sometimes people want something that I can't play, and then I feel really bad.
Yeah. Well,
Like somebody asked me to play Fleetwood Mac. I'm like, I don't know any Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, meditation is
play
amazing.
Freebird.
Yeah. Did you have something to say, Joe?
Oh, no, no. I was just gonna mention the meditation of Thais. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I had a student and that just became his piece
Okay.
because he needed it for tone. He just needed it for the technique of the left hand and all that. So anyway, so I
What is it called? Medication.
meditation from Thais by
Yeah.
Jules Massenet.
Beautiful.
It is. It is.
Great piece. So somebody asked about sticky and sweaty palms. That's just something you have to deal with. I mean, people talk about putting powder. I mean, I don't get it as bad. Some people get it as worse, but you do have to learn how to play. I mean, I played in horrible conditions before. It's not comfortable, but it's just, if you can avoid places that are too hot. But sometimes people just get it from nerves. And I don't know too many people personally that have that problem and that have had issues with it. I mean, you can always wear a cloth on your chin rest too, and have a cloth. When I used to play with a handkerchief on me, I don't do it anymore. I don't know. It's just something else to worry about that I didn't like. But someone put about breathing. Yes. Here's the thing. Breathing is definitely important. And, I did that post. I don't know if you saw. I did it intentionally to see how I would feel breathing. And I was breathing really hard after like pedaling on a bike for about 5, 10 minutes, whatever it was. And I could feel my heart racing and feel the breathing. That's definitely not comfortable. However, I still believe that if you have good technique, you have good fundamentals, you know how to kind of respond and kind of work properly despite these kinds of impediments or whatever obstacles you have. You know what I'm saying? That's just me. So any more questions? I have a couple more things I want to talk about.
Oh,
Just speak up. And I'm
any more pieces that you could suggest that we should know? I mean, meditation was one of them.
Pieces you should know? Well, you should know all the Bachs.
Yeah.
You should learn all those. I mean, I know them. I haven't performed all of them, but I've played through the whole thing. I think it was funny. Gil, I've never heard Gil Shaham play another encore except for that one. He always plays that. It's almost like a running joke when he comes to the orchestra. He only plays that encore. It's the only one he knows. It's kind of funny. So, all right. So another thing I wanted to talk about. Other pieces again. Two things I want to talk about. Practicing. There's a certain aspect of how to practice that I think that so many people just don't know how to practice properly. I just don't think they are productive, and they don't realize how they are actually getting nowhere and sort of obsessing on the wrong things. And I think that can easily be something that, I've done it myself. I'm the first one to admit I've gotten overly obsessed with something, in a certain excerpt or a certain part of and it became something like it gets in your head. And then all you're doing is spending hours working on something, and you're neglecting so much of what needs to be worked on. When I practice a concerto, I always try to work sort of from the middle and out, and I try to find the spots that I know are problematic, and I try to make sure that I'm never like starting at the beginning all the time. Starting at the beginning is so common, and then the beginning always sounds way better than the ending, and of course it's just pure simple thing to do is just don't start at the beginning, for goodness sake. Start somewhere other than that, or at the end, or just work where your trouble spots are. Know what you're most, of course there might be those bars, but there's a whole concerto or there's a whole stuff. And there's also beside that, again, I get back to like practicing skill sets. I am a big believer in working on etudes. I think colle, martele, string crossings, different things, scales, shifting. These things are just, if you're not doing them, the rest of your playing is going to suffer. I mean, it's no different than all these athletes that work out at the gym. All these football players, if they're all working out at the gym, or they would not be able to perform the way they do. This is no different. And I just think people neglect this, and they don't realize how out of tune they're playing and how inconsistent they are because they haven't done the work. Practicing scales, and then knowing how to practice them.
Could you go over that list again? You just whipped them right off very quickly.
You mean the etudes?
Well, you were saying etudes, string.
Yeah, I mean, Kreutzer 9, Kreutzer 2, Kreutzer 1, Kreutzer 6, Kreutzer 14. They're all and then how you do them. And then there's the don't etudes, the first etude by don't, the chords. I mean, there's so many. And then not only that, I also, even though it's not necessarily an etude, you must play a lot of Bach. Bach is like another, I remember my teacher saying, it's like your Bible. There's so much in there for left and right hand technique that is, and musically, and understand, and how to group notes. It's essential, And then the other thing is just, I also think that I really do believe being able to play Mozart at a high level is extremely important. I mean, and of course that's why we asked for it in audition. And there's so many skill sets in learning how to, with bow technique in Mozart, that you need to learn, especially the 2x2s, this kind of bowing, and getting the right stroke. I mean, all these things, and learning. There's so much finesse with the right hand that you need to learn, and it all is. And if you can do it in Mozart, you can do it just about in any other. I mean, Prokofiev Classical Symphony has a lot of the same riddles of the right hand that you need to be able to perform. Because if you can't, and again, I'm right. Prokofiev 1 exposed me. It truly exposed my right hand, and exposed my inability to do certain things with my left hand. And I learned from it. I totally learned from it. And what I couldn't do, I can do now, but it took a lot of work. And the other thing is, and there's Sevcik is another one. I did Sevcik exercise. There's a book of 100 or 1,000 bowings. You could do 2 to 3 bowings a day. Okay, you'll never, you can't run out of them. There's so many, and it's just basically string crossing. Okay, I teach. There's ways to efficiently figure out how to get through these string crossings and do them effectively, whatever the bowing is. It's another one that's absolutely so good for your violin playing. And again, I love the nerd and geek out with that stuff. The other one you can do is Dunas. That's a little bit more sort of extreme, and I don't recommend doing it too much because you could potentially injure yourself, but it's definitely something that is really effective. It's there's some crazy shifting things. I can't remember the don't etude. There's a couple other don't etudes that I think are really good. I just can't remember the number off the top of my head, but they're really good. Any questions about etudes or anything like that, or exercises? Brook concerto, absolutely. So here's another thing. Here's what I think, and it kind of gets back to the first thing I said is, what is your level? Knowing your level and being acquainted and understanding and being able to hear it. What I think most students not only don't know their level, but they don't really have a mental representation of what something should sound like. And it could be anything from intonation to articulations to rhythm to just having an awareness of evenness of notes. I don't think people like really put on their listening ears as clearly as they need to. And I don't think they realize, and a lot of this sometimes too, I will say, has to be like uncovered by a teacher to you and say, do you hear what that sounds like? And then, do you hear the difference between this and that, and what you're doing versus this? I'll never forget when I was learning Mozart, and a teacher of mine, David Arbin, taught me like what even rhythm sounded like. And then once it was kind of explained or demonstrated, and then all of a sudden I could hear everybody's bad rhythm, or I heard rhythm, or my own bad rhythm. And unless you really hear what good rhythm and what really good even notes, and my definition, and I always tell my students, the definition of good rhythm, as far as I'm concerned, is basically giving every note its proper exact value. And that can mean a lot of different things. Okay. It's not metronomic. It's not, if I played, from Mozart 4, this is very hard to play rhythmically. Why? Because every note needs to sound even, and it needs to, be spread over, one bar. If you leave any of those notes sort of uneven, you could be right with the metronome, but if it doesn't sound da da di da di da 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 di da 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 da, it's not good rhythm. And Mozart is definitely a place where you hear rhythmic problems, with all these notes. All these 16th notes have to be extremely articulated, extremely even. These are the kinds of things that sound wrong in auditions or poor auditions that I've heard. The level of, or the lack of awareness of the evenness of these 16th notes is so much lacking sometimes. And this is something that, basically it's unfortunate, but that's something that they need to have a representation, like I say, a mental or oral representation of what even notes sound like. Then, and not only that, then how it sounds, like for example, in Beethoven, all these notes in terms of the evenness and the articulation and the volume need to sound the same. Okay, I mean that was just okay, but you da da dum bum, bum. Everything has to have this extreme precision of articulation, note value, intonation. That's what creates, good excerpt playing, and that's why I love excerpts, because it just exposes all the problems that one has in their playing, and it's right there, right in front of you. I really believe if you can play excerpts well, it translates into great great concerto playing as well. You're learning so many skill sets.
Excerpts of what? What
orchestral excerpts.
Orchestral excerpts.
Orchestral
like
excerpts.
Pieces.
Yeah, they're just parts that, like I just played. This is from Beethoven 1. Okay. Okay, that's the first violin part for the beginning of the symphony, or the beginning of the last movement. And if you can play this with a certain precision, that is absolutely the way that it goes when you're playing in the symphony orchestra for a winning audition. You can probably play just about any piece, especially Don Juan is one of the most difficult first violin parts, the first page of it. That's why it's asked. It's like a concerto for the violin, and that's why I think excerpt playing, even if it's a simple thing like what I just played, if you can control your bow and control your tone and control your rhythm, in that it's just like putting it in a laboratory and just sort of isolating every little bit of each note. It's for me, it's fun. Now some people find it to be torture.
Well,
but
how do you pick the excerpt? Like for example, Vivaldi. What?
Well, the orchestra, when you have an audition, the orchestra picks certain excerpts. There's certain excerpts that are decided that are generally like, for example, like my program that I'm doing right now. The most essential ones are Don Juan, first page, Mendelssohn, Midsummer Night's Dream Scherzo. What else? Mozart 39, Beethoven 9. The slow movement. And there's one, I mean, and these are pieces that I've played a million times. And I will say, having performed them with the orchestra, my ability to teach them and know how they go is that much more clarified just because I played them, when with the orchestra. And that's sort of that's what you have to do when you're playing an audition. You have to make that excerpt sound like you are playing it in the orchestra and you're blending with the section. That's the purpose. And playing and blending with a section in the orchestra is extremely, precise, and you can easily stick out if your articulations or the things you're doing are not the same as what everyone else is doing. And that's why excerpt playing is so, such a thing. And I love it. I mean, I think a lot of teachers don't like teaching excerpts. But, I find it to be so, there's a strategy to learning them. There's a strategy to getting better and a strategy to just fine tuning them and making you, again, it makes you a better violinist when you can play a really good, orchestral excerpt perfectly, And one last thing I will say, and this is another thing, perfectly. Here's something, to all those auditioning out there. Perfect playing is not what committees are looking for. I mean, yes, they are looking for high-level playing, but striving for perfection, I don't care if you're taking auditions, you're playing recitals, you're doing playing and striving for perfection is a very not a good endeavor. That's all I can say, because it makes you tighten up, it makes you get worse, it makes you like a little bit more inhibited. Playing, again, the way that I'm speaking and the way that I'm talking, the way that I'm emoting and talking, and this is kind of what needs to happen when you're playing the violin. You're not thinking about making a mistake or trying to avoid mistakes. Trying to avoid mistakes and it lends itself to very boring playing, in my opinion. And I've heard people like that guy I was telling you about that won that audition. He had mistakes in his audition. He was like, "Oh, I blew it on that." I was like, "Yeah." But we know how good you are, and we know how much of a player you are, given all the great things you did, and that's what a good sound, a good is like candy, a good sort of like inspired performance is like that's what we want. That's kind of what we want to hear. We don't want to hear just someone just playing all the notes and it's boring. It has to have some kind of musical integrity to it for it to be something I would say hireable or listenable or enjoyable. That's all. Does that make sense?
Yes. So I have another audition coming up in November.
Okay.
And so this one I'm really they want 2 concertos. So I think the question that you're saying that I should really be looking at is what can I do to make the first page of each concerto really stand out and be really special? Because they're going to hear a lot of Tchaikovsky, they're going to hear a lot of Mozart. What can I do?
Yeah, I mean, hold on one second. It's hard for me to answer that question without hearing you play. I mean, again,
Gotcha. Yeah.
the solo part of the audition is important. You want to make them sound like you're a player, that that you have good skills on the violin, that that's sort of, and you're able to kind of play a solo. I mean, everybody in the Philadelphia Orchestra can play nice solos. I mean, every single one. Everyone can really get up there and play a solo. Like there's nobody's. I mean, I'm really spoiled. I sit amongst a bunch of real, just extremely talented people, and my mouth falls on the floor for every single one of them. I mean, I could name things I've heard each one of them play, even though I play in a section. I mean, I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's incredible. Like you sound, I mean, one after the other, and I'm just spoiled. I get to work with these people, because they're hyper talented, and even on I mean, I've heard our trombone player play these solos. I've heard our I mean, just insane a level. So the higher level of your concerto, the better, the more sort of attractive you by right off the bat, you sound. Does that make sense?
Yes. I'm glad I have a little bit of time too on this next one. So
Yeah. So let's see, are most orchestral auditions that you know blind auditions? Yeah, I'd say, I mean, my audition, for the Philadelphia Orchestra, we as a committee decide right before we start the rounds whether we're going to take down the screen or not take down the screen. And sometimes if we feel as if there are people that we think there might be some kind of compromise of interest, if they know someone, people will say, I think we should take it down. And then they, as a committee, vote whether they want to keep the screen up or down.
What do you mean the screen? What do you?
There's for an orchestral audition, everything's blind. The committee sits behind a screen. So all we're doing, and this, I'm glad you brought that up. All we're doing is listening to the player. We don't see the player in the audition. We only, until the very final round, then we might see the player. At the final round, the screen came down in my audition, and they saw me play, and that's important. I actually do want to see the player. I don't want to see. I like seeing the whole package, but sometimes it depends.
It's because some judges are prejudiced.
They're biased. They could be biased. Yeah, but here's an important point I want to bring up. When you're recording and preparing for an audition, make sure you're always listening to yourself with a recording. Don't always tape yourself with a video, because I do this even now. When I want to hear how I sound, it has to sound great. And sometimes when you're watching something, it distracts one person. It distracts one from the sound. Your sound is everything. It's so important. You really need to hear exactly what's happening. And that's why I put on my headphones, listen exactly to what's going on, to every little bit of detail. That's what I do when I listen to recordings. I really try to listen to the sound, because it's everything.
Do you ever play duets with yourself using an MM1 or any of those?
I've done stuff like that. Yeah, I've done.
Okay.
Real quick, last thing I want to say is, just so you know, I do host. I have this excerpt class and I have some of you are already in it, but I am. I have a certain amount of people that are coming and that are members of it. It's 20 pre-recorded videos of me teaching 5 of the most essential excerpts. And then I do twice a month group classes like this where I go through an excerpt, or I'll go through an excerpt of part of the concerto. I do this twice a month. So 2 of you, I'm from this class, I'm going to pick from a hat, and I'm going to draw some winners. I'll give you a free month for that. So if some of you are already members, but just because I think it's great to have more people in the class. So it's just 1 free month, and you can cancel if you don't want. But I love the group class. I love teaching the excerpts. Again, this is my passion. I had somebody, I'm teaching someone on Zoom, a really high level person that's taken an audition on Thursday. I just love teaching excerpts. And I have another person later that afternoon that's coming to my house. Same thing, it's taking auditions. And I love the community. I mean, this is how I got my job. I had a community of violinists that I was basically hung around. I got better just by hearing them play. And, it was just that's how I learned so much from my colleagues, and I still do. I still learn so much from my colleagues. It's so important to me to kind of pick their brains. So that's all I got. So thank you all so much. I have it's funny, I didn't want to stop the class, but I have 2% of my battery left on my laptop. So okay. I don't want it to abruptly end and you'd be like, what happened? But if I didn't answer your question, you can always, how to find me. Send me an email, and I will follow up with all of you. But thank you all so much for coming. This is a lot of fun. I love talking about this stuff. And again, if I didn't answer your question, or if you have questions you want to talk to me privately, please send me an email, send me a text. You know where to find me. And I promise
I'll go through and find out where these people are from. I'm in Amherst, New Hampshire, for example. Right. Where are other people from? Just curious.
Boston.
You're in Boston.
Yeah, put it in the chat real quick.
South Shore.
South Shore.
And
Put it
for
in the
Mary,
chat.
Texas.
I'm from Philly, but I live in Florida.
When's our next meeting? Are you gonna let us
So,
know?
yeah, I will let you know. It's going to be in the community. It's going to be most likely Monday night next week.
Okay.
Monday,
I put it
same
in chat
time.
too. I'm Lori from Philly, so
Oh, nice to meet you too, Lori. Yeah, please. I'm going to follow up with every single one of you personally, because first of all, I'm so grateful that you're all here. It's always great to see, and I don't see everybody's face, so I don't always feel the room the way that I would like. It's much easier when I'm in a but Zoom room's still great, and I love these kind. I had a class where I did something with Augustine Hadalik and James Ennis, and it was like I'll never forget about it. I'll never forget it. They're superstars, and I'm so fortunate to get to play with them on stage. But they're also super great guys, and they were such an incredible experience on Zoom as well. So,
Well, thanks for putting this on.
sure, you're welcome. All right, I'm going to end it because I got 1% battery.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
We'll get
you.
in touch
Nice to
on-
meet you all.
Okay.
Nice to meet you all.
Nice
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
yeah. Thanks.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.